Hi, ladies, and welcome to The Solution. My name is Shan Monet. It used to be Shantae, but I'm reinventing myself. And, ladies, you want to introduce yourself starting over here?
Hey ladies, hey everyone, it's Lady T or at Lady Mogulette on Instagram. Happy to be here. Excited for tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Inaz. This is Inaz across all platforms, and I'm excited to get into this tonight.
I'm Miss Taken. How's everyone doing this evening?
Hey.
Hi, I'm Bree, _Bell.Bree on Instagram, and I'm excited to hear all of the different perspectives from you lovely ladies tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Indy. My @ is simply_Indy1 on IG. And it's nice to meet everybody.
Hi, I'm Mommy Three Loves on all platforms: TikTok, IG. I don't have Facebook, but well, I'm excited to hear from you, lovely ladies.
Hi, guys. Well, everybody, thank you for coming to The Solution. Obviously, Taylor B could not be with us here today, but I'm pretty sure she'll be with us in the weeks to come, hopefully. So we are talking about single motherhood. What is a single mom here? Look at that. Won't you do it? So we are talking about single motherhood here. And you know what is so crazy? I never thought I would have to define single motherhood. I thought it was kind of what it is. But believe it or not, people have different definitions of what they consider a single mom to be. So what I'm going to do is going to go around and give me your input on what you feel the definition of a single mom is.
A woman that is single, out of wedlock, and gave birth to a child that single and gave birth to a child. I mean, I'll stop there. I'm not gonna go too deep. I'll stop there.
I was going to say I agree with Lady T. The only thing that I would add to that, I would say primary parent. So single woman unmarried woman who gave birth to a child and is the primary caretaker.
I was trying not to go there. Mistake.
So I guess my definition is a little bit different because I don't think that you have to give birth to be a single mother. I think with things like adoption, I think that a woman who is rearing a child on her own would kind of be my definition.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say a woman who takes over half responsibility for the child, who is taking majority of the responsibility. Someone who is unmarried that's caring for the child would be my definition of a single mom.
Yeah, kind of just to caveat off of what everyone else kind of has said. I agree. Same definition. Don't really have anything different to add to it.
Yeah, me too. The only thing that I can add to it is most single mothers have to create their own village. Being a single mom, just a mom that is not with the dad, and they have to create a village to help take care of that child. It can be either family or, friends that have kids too. So, just a mom that's not with the dad. That's a single mom to me.
Okay, so it's so funny because we all had different definitions of a single mom. And you know what? I remember a while back, I think there was a woman and she was like, oh, she's a single mom. And there was somebody who took to the airways and was like, well, you're not a single mom because I help out with my kid. I have my kid 50% of the time. And so I tried to explain, well, she's still a single mom because in the world of dating, like just to take it out of, the household, if she's dating, and this could be the same thing true for a single dad. If you're dating, a person would need to know that you're a single mom because you're single and you're also a mom, because they're going to approach you a little different than they will approach somebody who is single with no children. So yes, the father may take the kid 50% of the time, but if I'm dating you, I would need to know that you are a single mom because there's responsibility that goes along with that. Another thing is, do we think of single, and I kind of think some of us kind of hit on this, do we think of single moms if they're cohabitating? They may not be married, but they live in under the same roof. Are we still considering those women single moms? I think somebody mentioned if you're not married. Who was that? So your definition, so some people may think, oh, well, she's not a single mom because she's in a relationship. So it gets kind of tricky. So how do you guys feel about that?
So I don't think that just because, like, I don't think you're a single mom if you're only doing 50% of the parenting. You're a single woman that happens to be a parent and is dating. Because if the responsibility of your child won't fall on the person that you're looking to date, then you're just a single woman who's a mom and their father is involved and you're co-parenting. Now, if you're a primary caregiver and you have to create your own village, I think, like Bree said, and correct me if I'm wrong. That was you that said that, right, Bree? Oh.
No, actually, that was mommy. Mommy.
Oh, mommy. Sorry. Yeah, like mommy 3 Love said. Yeah. So yeah, if you're having to create your own village and having to like improvise as it comes to childcare in order to go out and like, taking care of your child kind of, like you have to pretty much plan your life around your parenting, because you don't really have that support, then I would say, okay, you're more a single mom. But nah, there's a difference between that. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
I was just giving a scenario and seeing how you felt about it. But no, that kind of summed it up. I was just getting your idea on how you felt about the different definitions of a single mom that are put out there. But you did a good job. Anybody else?
You're on mute, Mistaken.
Talking to yourself.
I was just thinking something that Lady T said about, if you're doing 50% of the work, then technically you wouldn't consider that being a single mom, and which I agree. But does it depend on who's doing the other 50%? Because I've known single women or single moms who have responsibility of their child, but their village provides the other 50%. So are we looking at, is it just the father of the child that we look at when we say that they're not, they're only doing 50% of the, parenting, or does it matter who's giving the other 50%? If that makes sense.
It does. Well, was that for me? Because I said that.
Well, just anybody that just popped into my head when you said that. So I'm like, well, does it depend on if it's the dad doing the other 50%? Or I know like there are a lot of people who grandparents, like their parents stepped in and do the 50%, or auntie or whoever. But if it's not, are we looking at just not the dad doing the 50%, or it could be anybody that's doing the other 50%?
I think to me, I feel like it don't count if you created that village yourself, because at the end of the day, if the dad's not doing nothing, in most cases you have to pay the auntie, pay the cousin. You still have to spend so much money just to go on one date with a man, because you know you gotta work around all these plans. So I just feel like that's still considered like all in single mom. But then again, it depends on the relationship you have with the dad. Even if it is 50-50, it just really depends on who you're doing 50-50 with when it comes down to the father. Because sometimes they don't follow everything. They don't follow all the guidelines when it comes down to 50-50. They want to call and switch holidays. They want to call and switch days. And now you got to replan things. I feel like still as a mother, it's still so hard to make plans when you have kids.
I think that I'm going to add in something that's a little bit kind of like devil's advocate, maybe. I think that a lot of the time when people think about like single mom, they're thinking about, like you said, the traditional like relationship status. But I think it's just a mom that's like mostly just doing the work primarily. So she could be in a marriage, in a relationship, have a counterpart, have a village, but day to day, you are the primary caretaker of those children. Like you don't have anyone that's just in the background, maybe doing anything day in and day out. And that doesn't just go as far as like dating goes. That's just like an overall, you know, thing that I think.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, as I said, like someone who's doing over half the work, you know, for the child as the primary caretaker.
So you guys think that just because I think I'm confused. So you guys say that if she has a maid, you consider her a single mom if she's doing most of the womanly duties in the house, which traditionally, let's just, you know, women took care of the kids. So that would make her a single mom?
No, I thought we were just talking about living by ourselves. If I'm married and that's just a part of being nurturing. I'm from Mississippi, so I'm nurturing. I grew up around women just taking care of kids and doing what they're supposed to do. That's just in my nature. I don't have to go out to a lounge every weekend. If I have a man at home, I don't consider that a job, because if he's working and paying the bills, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't feel like I need a gold sticker to say I'm a mom, because that's something that I want to do. I want to be a mom. I am a mom.
So I was gonna say, I think there might be a little bit of confusion on like maybe what I was saying. Like, I don't mean it to say that like, okay, that like it's a job or you're clocking into something. When I say that, I mean like that you could, okay, for instance, I was married and I came in with a child, and I had that child from a previous marriage. He's still my child. He's still my responsibility. I'm still responsible for him. However, I do have a husband. So I'm still a single mom. Like, I'm still a single mom in that definition of things, because he's still my responsibility. If my husband chooses, my new husband, he shouldn't, right? Or I don't think he should, at least. But if he chooses to not help or be involved with my son, then, you know, my son is still my responsibility. I'm still a single mom.
And I feel like the only way for a woman to feel like that, to feel that depressed and lonely, to feel like she's by herself, we can look at the man, like how's he making her feel for her to even feel like she's a single mom, for her to feel like she needs some type of validation. Do he tell her, hey, let me go find a sitter, let me take you out to eat? Is he taking her out? Like, is he still trying to pursue her in that relationship with her taking care of those kids? Like, I want to know, like, what would make a woman feel that way?
So
if anyone can answer that.
You're speaking more of a person feeling like they're a single mom.
Yeah,
I was talking more of, what do we see? Like, when I see a person in the street, what would define me as me saying, oh, she's a single mom, or she's a single mom? And for me, I've always thought, I mean, I could be wrong or right, I've always thought if you're not married and you have a child, you're a single mom, because your status on the report is going to say you're single, check mark. Do you have any children? single mom. You know,
Yeah,
it
like,
doesn't knock it.
yeah,
doesn't
if
take
I was
away-
living with a man like me, I would, you know what? God damn, shit. I was a single mom. Well, I'm gonna put mine. I was with my kid's father for 8 years. We wasn't married. So, and I was figuring say that like, he can up and leave. Like, we're not married or anything, like nothing. So when I left, I was a single mom. So yeah, I feel like you can be a single mom, especially if you're not married to this man. You're not married to him and you living with him, and y'all, even if y'all have kids together or separate, you still gonna come out of there a single mom. You still gonna be single.
Unless you're married, it's mommy's baby.
Right.
Baby.
What you said, you showed. Come on, T.
So which one do you think? So are we on? Anybody else want to add to that? Because I want to add something else.
So even if you're married though, legally, I'm saying like your spouse though, like from a legal standpoint, depending on the state, is still not responsible for your child that you had outside of them. That's why I'm saying like you're still a single mom. When you marry that person, you take up their last name. Should they not do that? No, they should not do that. But like, if we're being technical, like your child is still falls under that 2-parent sector.
So I think, because if we're going by Shan Monet's definition of like the way you fill out paperwork, that wouldn't qualify that woman as being a single mother, because she's checking off the boxes married, right? Regardless that her dependents do not belong to the person she's married to, she still checks off the box of married, right? So can we actually still call her a single mother if she's married, because her status is married, right?
And we can only
She's married and a
assume
mother.
that those kids are under that man's dominion. Like he is the head of the household, which means he's over everything within his household. And I would assume that also, I just feel like that's also my kids. So if a man takes me as his wife and my child is in the house, she now is under his leadership. That's just how I.
And that FAFSA, when you fill out that form, that's not tricky. If you file taxes together, even if that's not his kid, they're gonna consider his income when y'all fill out that FAFSA for college and stuff like that. So they would consider that a 2-parent household.
Right. Yeah. So I think like some definitions, most people are speaking legally, like, the legal definition of single mom. And then you have like the hypothetically speaking definition of it.
I think in 2022, people like we just take definitions and everything.
Who cares what Webster says? Oh, wait, be gone, Webster.
It's very frustrating. No, like like if you're a married woman, you are not a single mom. Like you just.
That's why I was like, why would you even feel that way?
A football player that's a benchman is still a football player. Like he's sitting on a bench, but he's still
get that check.
Now they may tell you he married a single mom.
I think the only reason why I have that perspective is because I've like actively been in a marriage like that. Like I've literally like actually experienced that, where like we're married on paper, we file our taxes separate but together, and I claim my child and he claims the other two, and that's how it was like that, and we were literally legally married. But
you're talking about the child that you had before.
Yes.
And
so you guys were a blended family.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So legally you are still like if he gets up and divorces me, we are divorced.
You still have to take that one child.
Right.
Well, I think that society that I don't think that we'll see you as a single mom, because you're not single. You are definitely a married mom now. We don't know who the daddy is.
Yeah.
We don't just assume he the daddy.
It doesn't matter.
You know who the daddy is, but and that's not to take away from the dad. Let me just make it very clear. That's not to take away from the role of the father, because I would assume that people will look at my child's father as he's a single dad, and I'm okay with that. I take no offense to that. I know my role in my child's life. He is a single dad. Available. Anybody want a single dad? Great guy. But I would not take offense to that, because legally that's what he is. He's a single dad.
Mm-hmm.
So So let me ask you a question because this is a little turn like a little. So do you think that people look at that differently? Okay, so when we talk about kids born out of wedlock, okay, why are they? It seems like it's because there's so many definitions over here. We know what that means. Like you were born out of wedlock, okay, and that's such a cut dry situation. But the single mother thing is not as cut dry. It's interesting how we have so many different variations of what a single mom is, but at the end of the day, were you married when you had the child? So I just found that to be like a little real, interesting.
So Sharon, I think, like I was saying, like with this whole definitions thing in 2022, I think people take what words mean and flip it to make them feel better about their shortcomings as it relates to that. I'm a single mom, period. Like if I were to say, if I were to be married and still taking care of my child, I would still be married. You know what I mean? Like I would still be covered by that sanctity of marriage. Whether or not I choose a man that's a great teammate, that's willing to help me with our or my child, is something completely different. But I'm still married. But as a single mom, if you're an unmarried woman with a child, that is your responsibility. That's what makes you a single mom. Like, it sucks that there are women that are in relationships where they're the only one that's the primary caretaker, and they don't get any breaks. And I feel for y'all, and I hope the child gets some kind of relief before you lose it. But the fact remains that if you are married, you are not a single mom. Like, that's the bottom line. Like,
You can feel like it, but it doesn't. Right. You're not technically right.
No.
I think further to that, like, I think the idea of calling a single mom as a woman who has never been or is no longer married, I think that was a thing for so long, right? Like women having children out of wedlock was like a big secret, a big societal no. And so they were labeled other things. And so now that has become more of the norm, it's all kind of being swept in the same category, right? Like I still check off single on my taxes. I still check off mom on my taxes and whatever other forms, right? And so it still technically fits the definition. And it kind of, in some ways, not always, because social media does what it does, but in some ways kind of alleviates the stigma of having children out of wedlock.
Yeah, and I can just only imagine like the trauma that, women that's going through a divorce and there's, have kids, like that is something that women that's not married, they're trying to get to that point where, oh, I want the marriage and the house and the kids and things like that. And you hear all these like experiences from women who's like, it don't always end well. And, I can just only imagine being a single mom and then going through a divorce. That has to be like one of the hardest things.
So, anybody else have anything to say about that? Because I wanted to go into I know this is off topic because I do that sometimes. I be thinking about stuff when I'm talking. But I have a question about when it comes to, do you think that nowadays the single, because I know we had, like I said, we had different variations of single motherhood. Do you think that if a person is cohabit, they live with their in a relationship and they are bringing a kid up, is that more accepted as when it's out of wedlock than vice versa when the woman is alone and she has to raise the child by herself?
I'll say just from, I've been married twice, right? So I lived the quote unquote, like you said, American dream twice. And when I tell men that like all three of my children, I have 3 total, all 3 of them were in wedlock, I feel like it's a little bit more accepted than like I have a best friend who is just, she's never been married or anything like that. She had a long time boyfriend and then they had a baby. And like men are like, oh, okay, you were married. Like somebody chose you. Like it's not right, but that's just something that I have experienced, you know?
That's true. Cause
Um,
I actually did a TikTok on it, and like a lot of men commented on it. I said, like, what is the hardest thing about dating a single mom? And majority all the men said that they would take or a woman that was divorced before they take and it was so sad, you know. It kind of hurt my heart a little bit, but I was like, okay, I'll take that little L, it's all right. But you know, it's good to hear from men to kind of understand, okay, I don't need to be with that type of man, I don't need to go for those type, you know. I'm just basically just weaving out all of the things that I don't need. But majority of the men said they don't want to take in another man's kid or another man's family. Like it was crazy. Like
I would
they
love,
said
I
that.
mean, I know we don't have any guys like up
I wish
here
they
right
would.
now, but I would love to
You know,
hear, I would love to hear the reason why. Because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that it still ends up being the same. It's still another man's child. So whether you were married and then divorced versus never married and had a child, the responsibility for that person coming in would still be the same. So I really would like to understand that mindset. I guess if I had to guess, I would think more along the lines of them feeling like, well, she wasn't for the streets, like associating like, oh, she had a kid out of wedlock, not married, she was for the streets and had this kid, versus the other one who got married and had a kid. That's my assumption. I don't know if that's the reason, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
So when I've actually had conversations with guys that I've dated and stuff like that, and I've asked them like, okay, well, you know, why would you say that me being divorced and having 3 kids versus somebody who was in an 8-year-long committed relationship, you know, and then having a baby with somebody that the same amount of kids and everything like that, they were still committed, they just weren't legally married, right? And I think it's a societal norm to them. It, like what you said, like the definition, the right, wrong, this is right, this is wrong, and they kind of throw that under the category of like, okay, well, you made this man go through these steps before you allowed him to impregnate you. So like it kind of sets them with like okay, she has a standard. I know I can't just come at you any type of way because you've been married before. So like I know that you'll probably expect that again. Like, and I tell guys this all the time. I wouldn't go backwards with you if I was dating you. Like I've been married before, so I'm not gonna just allow a guy to come in and just, you know, not place a ring on my finger and then just carry a baby for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think that kind of, you know.
You mean I hate when we say place a ring on the finger because it's 2 rings. I was engaged when I had my kid and I still wasn't married. So 2 rings, ladies, 2, not 1. Ah, man, but yeah, no, I feel you with that for sure. I definitely think that like, you know, that's probably exactly what it is. The whole perception, the whole like idea that a woman didn't stand on her own maybe principle and would be expecting the next man she dates to do that, which I think is really foolish. I don't understand why men like to compete with
You're right. Kids.
the past.
And they compete with the kids too. And
I
that's
mean,
another thing.
let's be legit though. Okay, so I have to, as a single mom myself, I have to step into as a man. I'm gonna try to bring on my masculine energy. So you know, I have to play devil's advocate. You know, because I kind of see it. I kind of see their point a little bit. You know, I do. It's kind of taking a risk. You
Of
know,
course, everything's a risk, though.
and so and I completely get where, you know, they're coming from, but my question to us is, I wonder why we were willing to take that risk. You know what I'm saying? Of course, kids.
So,
And then okay, well, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I just want to finish what I was saying real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Because Like what I was getting at is you know how like the whole idea of men competing with the past, like now, yes, of course I get the whole risk thing, but what I was more so speaking to was Indy mentioned that, you know, she's pretty much always she set a standard for herself and she stuck to that standard. Mm-hmm. So for guys, they kind of know that they can't come short as relates to the standard. So with a single mom that maybe has one child, I could understand. I mean, I could say like, okay, that one time she had a child out of wedlock, she didn't stick to the standard. But if you have maybe 2, 3 now, I could understand why a guy would say, you have 2, 3 kids out of wedlock. You didn't stick to those standards. Why now do you expect me to come and not, you know, why now do you expect me to come and you want to make these changes? Not that I agree with that either, because when we're allowed to change and evolve and grow, which is why I hate when guys say like, oh, whatever he did, you let him get away with that foolishness. Why? You know what I mean? I don't like that.
Right. But, so are you supposed to stay in your dirt? Right.
Let you to roll in that shit for the rest of your life.
And that's what I was going to say, right? Is like this rhetoric of holding people to their past. Now, I don't want to mince my words with this. I think that the past can be informative, right? Especially when you're getting to know someone, you're vetting them, you're going through the process and all of that stuff. But to hold people's past against them is to say that like you are not capable of growing. You're not capable of wanting more out of life. And I understand, like, if the responsibility is not something that you want, you don't want to take on 3 children that don't belong to you, then just go ahead and say that. But to say that you as a woman are no longer allowed to desire that, I think that's wild. Like, I think people should just own their own stuff and say, I'm willing to put up with this, I'm not, this is my preference, this is not. But to say like, okay, you finally learned from your mistakes and I'm not going to allow you to continue to learn from your mistakes. Like, you just have to forever pay for your mistakes. I think that rhetoric can be not only disheartening, but a little bit dangerous too.
I agree, but the truth of the matter is that is kind of the way the world works. You don't want it to, but think about men who were in prison. They served their time to society. But once they get out, that stigma is still there. They're going to have a difficult time finding a job. They're going to have a difficult time sometimes finding a relationship. Once somebody find out what their, you know, criminal history is. So unfortunately, you know, this is kind of the same situation. Like, you know, even though you grow and you learn, the issue is that some people are not going to let it go. And of course, those are the people you don't want in your space anyway. So, but unfortunately, yeah, when you're vetting, when you're trying to figure out if this is somebody that I want to deal with, if this is somebody that I want to take on this additional responsibility for, they're going to have to consider all of those things. But, you know, unfortunately, there are some mistakes just in general. I used to tell my kids all the time that, yes, you're going to make mistakes, but there are going to be some mistakes that are going to be lifelong lessons that, you know, you can't turn back. You can't change. It is what it is. And you're going to have to just learn to adapt and deal with it. And unfortunately, some mistakes make you miss out on opportunities, certain opportunities.
But that's what, you know, what gets me with this whole holding people accountable thing. I don't think anyone is held more accountable for their missteps in life than a single mom. Like, how can she not? You're gonna have to take care of that child for the rest of its life.
Right, when they say like, okay, why you had those kids with that man, he won't marry you? I'm like, shit, I don't know why I had these damn kids. I was in love. Shit, I was 19. I was in college. Baby, we was in love. Baby, he was good. We were good.
Oh, that Mississippi. I thought Alabama, baby. But
baby, I just had these kids. that's all I can say, baby. What you want me to do? But the thing about it is,
I felt like
and-
I'm taking them or you. What to you? Because I'm accountable by having to do this shit on my own. So.
right, and I tell a man all the time, like, bro, if we was a bit, you big daddy, baby, we trying to love you. Hey, we trying to buy you Father's Day gift shit. We trying to buy you cars. I don't care if you have a child or not. Hell, let's blend this shit. I don't want to do this on my own. I don't want to take out the
You
trash.
guys are hilarious. But okay, so and I'm in that situation too. I too am a single mom. But I want to make so being that the name of the show is The Solution. We can always give our input from the experiences that we've had. I think that the best thing about going through a lesson is you're able to teach others to not do the same thing you did so that they can be better, and so we know that being a single mom is hard work. It is hard work, especially if you do it right. It's the most selfless thing you can ever do in life. And so I just want it to be, for me, when I'm talking to a younger generation of kids, women, I would say to set those standards. The goal is to set those standards and understand, like, listen, you should not be giving him the most precious thing that you have without him giving you at least his hand in marriage. Like, what are we doing here? That should be first and foremost if we're trying to find a solution to a problem, And no cohabit, like, I get it. We can sit here and play house all day, but when the kids are involved, that's a different level of something. If we want to talk about kids, let's talk about marriage first.
Right. Yes.
Marriage comes first, and it's got to be more than just the ring. I need to see the priest, the legal, everything that goes involved with that.
Yeah, I would agree as well. And especially, I'll speak just from my experience and me being in the younger generation and just listening to you ladies speak. I actually did I did go through the process of just, like, giving birth and things of that nature. And I would have considered myself a single mom because as far as even doctor's appointments and things of that nature and small things that I needed, while I was carrying, I was doing, on my own or with that village of my mom and my sisters and things of that nature. So it's just like, if I would have known that, then I would have definitely, I would have gone a different route, and I would have, just held myself, to a higher standard, and just waited, because that's something that I've always said. Like, I want to wait, until I'm married and until I know that I'll be, fully supported by my partner, to go through that, because that is, that's life changing, to have a baby and, the emotions and everything like that. It takes a toll on you. So I would definitely have to agree.
Yeah, and like you said, what we would say to the younger, generation, to young ladies, like, don't be like me. Don't fall in love in college and think that man is for you. This is not a Netflix film. And another thing I want to say is, if you and we would love for our young ladies to get the ring and to do things and learn from our mistakes, but I really want ladies to understand, when, like Miss T said, with accountability. If you end up pregnant or you end up having these one night stands and you laying up with these little boys or whatever, and you text him and you tell him that, look, hey, I'm pregnant. However that response goes, and if you decide to keep that baby, just understand that that's going to be the beginning of your life from that point on.
What's crazy? The conversation I know that my husband and I have with both of our kids. We have a daughter, and we have a daughter and a son. And I was going to say, those conversations that we had around sex and, things like that, their conversations, believe it or not, were exactly the same in terms of, if you get pregnant or if you get someone's pregnant, your life is going to change.
Yes.
Because there was not going to be any way that it was going to be acceptable in my home for my son to not share in the responsibility of raising and taking care of a child that he fathered. And then the same thing with my daughter. There was going to be no way that you think that you having a child is going to now end up becoming me and your dad's responsibility. Like your life is going to change. And so our conversations in regards to what Shan, what you were saying about what can be the solution is the conversations that you're having with your children, you know, ahead of time. So we talked about sex from when they were younger. So it was never an uncomfortable conversation. Like we didn't wait till they got 13, 14, and then started the conversation. It was ongoing. And the big push was, this is what we prefer. Like, you know, wait until you get married, you know, those kind of things. But we were like, realistically, we know that, you know, may not happen. Based on the stats, more than likely it's not going to happen. But this is what you need to do. So, I mean, protection. You know, taking my daughter to the gynecologist. I mean, I put her on birth control before she even started having sex. And she's like, I don't want to, you know, because it was a stigma in her mind about that. But I'm like, no, because I know what can happen. Like right now, yes, you're not having sex. But my thing is, I want you to get in the habit of making sure that you prevent that, because you get caught up in your emotions and it can happen just like that. Son, buying condoms, keep them with you at all times. You need to re-up. Like it wasn't an uncomfortable conversation. Neither one of them had any children. You know, my son is married right now. My daughter's in a relationship. And when I say she's on point with that birth control, she don't play with it. She does not play with it. And I think that's the solution. A lot of times as parents, we don't want to have those uncomfortable conversations with our children. And I think that's to their detriment that we don't.
So I would.
Go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I would say, in general, both to young women and older women alike, if you can't trust them with your heart, don't trust them with your body.
Right.
That's fine.
That's facts.
Because when we go having babies, we take for granted that like you risk your own life. Like we're putting our lives at risk to carry forth life. And yeah, you know, women are doing it every day, but like it's an actual thing, right? So just be mindful who you're risking your life for, essentially, because you're risking your life when you just trust them to be having raw sex with them anyway. But then you're risking your life again by giving birth to another baby or giving birth to a baby and bringing a baby into the world. And then you're risking your mental health and your quality of life and all those things. So, yeah, so just in a nutshell, if you can't trust them with your heart, don't trust them with your womb. The other thing I would say that would be like a solution is to just, like just focus on like yourself until you find your husband. Like, don't plan for it. Like, I don't know. This whole thing is so ass backwards. I see some of these women talking about having a baby just to have a baby and saying you don't need the man. The man is definitely needed.
I thought I was on mute. Yes, they do. We need a man.
The man is needed in the household. Like, the man is needed to be a part of the child's life. So, like, just don't do it. If you're not, just don't do it. Like, just don't do it. Like, you see, these days, kids see so many examples of what it's like, because I feel like there are almost way more broken homes and single parent households than there are two parent households or families that are bringing children into the world within wedlock. Like, you know,
I think a lot of single mothers hurt themselves, and they kind of put themselves in a depression stage, especially when they're pregnant, and then they know that the father is not going to really be around. And when I had my last one, I knew that like it was over. So what I did was I went to therapy. I had a male therapist and I had a female therapist, and they were so awesome that after I had my last one, it was like I didn't even go through depression. Like I just like, it was just so amazing. I would recommend that to anyone, because we can say don't do it, but we know that things like that is going to happen. So it's like sometimes I wish that a lot of single mothers can talk about a solution, about pushing through. When I left at home, that I was with this man, we had a house together, we had all these things, but wasn't married. I just wasn't happy, and I left with those kids, and I risked it all. Like I moved to a whole nother state. I was in this, and then most of those men, they tell us that we're not going to be anything. You're not going to be anything without me. You can't make it without me.
Mhm.
And I just wish that mothers could be like, man, just like push through it. Don't worry about what another man gonna say. Because I promise you, my dad took in a woman that had 3 kids, and she was pregnant with one, and been taking care of her for 20 plus years, treat her like a queen. So I know it's possible to have a man to love you and that child just as much as the dad was supposed to been loving that child.
I just wanted to push back a little bit on something that Lady T said in regards, like, don't trust if you can't trust a person with your heart, then you shouldn't trust them with, your sex, basically. Although I understand where that's coming from, but I also think that, especially when you're younger, you can't trust your heart. You know what I'm saying? Because just in terms of that developmental stage, like, a lot of the young girls are getting pregnant because they're trusting their heart. Like when you're young and you're immature, you're thinking that you're going to be in love with this person forever. You guys are going to get married. You're going to do all of these things. So you're trusting your heart in the fact that, that you're going to build this life together. And then the reality of it is that 9 times out of 10, depending on how young you are, that's not going to be the reality. And so that's why I say the bigger conversation is, it should always start around making sure that you love yourself enough to protect yourself, so things wouldn't, so stuff wouldn't happen. That's my only thing, because I know I was in love, you know what I'm saying? And the person that I thought I was gonna marry, because I was engaged twice too, engaged twice, married once. I was engaged at 18. You know what I'm saying? No. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying, in terms of trusting your heart, you just really need to just be smart about, having those conversations about sex and making sure that you protect yourself, and if the person that you care about is going to make sure that he protects you or she protects you as well.
Yeah, well, what I said, I'm sorry, what I said was not sex, not if you can't trust them with your heart, don't trust them with your sex. I said if you can't trust them with your heart, don't trust them with your body. Right. And I agree with what you're saying, because when we are younger, we tend to be very a lot more naive and optimistic. Because we're not tainted and jaded. But when we're younger, we also think that we know ourselves well enough to not tolerate some of the shit that we end up tolerating, I think, as adults, until we know better. I mean, like some of the things that we end up tolerating as adults, I think, are like, I don't even know how to call. But I know when I was younger and I was dating, like with my high school sweetheart, like I loved him. Like you can tell me I didn't love that boy. Like you can tell me that, right? But there were still things that he was doing that I was way quicker to check as a teenager than myself in my adult years, because I was younger and reckless. And I'm like, no, you're not going to play me. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're an adult now, you kind of overthink and you're a bit more apprehensive, because it's kind of like choose your battles. You don't want to have these kind of conversations. You don't want to seem rambunctious. You don't want to bump heads. Like, so I get what you're saying, but yeah, I just wanted to clarify that I meant body
Well,
Like,
when you said body, I equated that to sex. Like when
well,
you said,
I was more
so
so speaking about our womb space. And then
okay.
that's why I spoke about like giving birth, risking your life, that sort of thing. But yeah, I do understand what you mean. And I'm sorry, I jumped in before Indy.
So we're gonna do go ahead, Indy, and then we're gonna do you, Bree. Okay, let them go first. Nobody, let them go. Go ahead.
I just want to say that from Miss Taken's what you said about what you do with your kids, I am the statistic of that actually being fact, like working. My mom was a teen mom, had me at 16, and from a very early age when my body started to make changes and stuff like that, my mom kept a very embedded, like uncomfortable almost like conversations about birth control, sex, condoms, the consequences of sex, STDs. I knew that even if I felt uncomfortable, I could still go to my mother and tell her. I came to my mom when I became sexually active. I was terrified out of my mind. And I feel like having that growing up is why I made the choices that I made and had the standards that I had, and why things went so successfully for me as far as like sticking to like, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to do. I know I know for a fact, these are the consequences of unprotected sex, not being on birth control, ruling with emotion over logic. And I had that from a young age. So I know that like, even though it's uncomfortable, I think that is really beautiful advice to give to parents, people that are raising the village, because it all starts in there.
Okay, Bree.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree, and I was agreeing with Lady T as far as like when you think you are in love, because as I stated, I did give birth last year, and it was well, I'm 24, so I'm mid, I'm very young. I did give birth with my high school sweetheart, and we had been dating since I was like 11, 12, and it probably stopped around my freshman year of my freshman year of college. So it was just like I was head over heels, that was my first everything. So, what I thought I knew, about that person, yeah, I could see myself with that person, marriage and things of that nature. And it just it was the total opposite. I doubled back to something, after college, moved back home, doubled back to something that I probably should have left alone. But it was, as something that I thought that I wanted and that I went back to. And it, my today's self definitely would have moved differently, would have moved differently then. It's just like you say, I tolerated some things back then that I probably wouldn't now tolerate now, as I just continue to learn and continue to grow and listen to like other women who have gone through the same thing and things of that nature.
Anybody else wanted to add on to that? No. Okay, so I wanted to. There was one comment in the chat that I really wanted to say, but that's going to lead the conversation to another place, and that is not a solution. So I'm gonna not do it. Let it go.
Yeah, I don't even look at the chat when we're on here because sometimes,
because it's misinformation, and I always want to correct it when it's
Speak
not
on it.
go off. I just like to make sure because I read a lot when I go into a topic. Me and Mistaken, we be researching like in them census bureaus and all in the stats and stuff. And the question was about I think the question, I'm going to hit on it real quickly and move forward. The question was about, and we're going to do the super chats. The question was about out of wedlock as it relates to African American women. And I did read a report. It was a Census Bureau report that what it did is it broke down out of wedlock births, and it goes by you had an out of wedlock birth for your first child and for your second child, and it did break it up into race. And what I found was that while not as many as Black women, there were women who were white who had out of wedlock kids. The difference was their spouse married them after that. So now they're not single parents, but they did have an out of wedlock child, but now they're married. So now their next child is not out of wedlock because they count per child. per child.
Per,
A
yeah.
lot of the research that a lot of people are quoting online, they get the research so wrong. The research is saying 72% of Black kids are born out of wedlock, not 72% of Black women are single moms. Two different stats. One is saying the kids, meaning that she has a child, then she has another child, and she has another child, and they're counting all of those children as out of wedlock births. You understand? So I heard that on another show, and I think somebody had made that quote was like, 72% of Black women are out of wedlock, and that wasn't that's not what it said.
They get on my nerve, that Google stuff, baby. I want to hear
children
actual
are born out of,
Baby, they Google. They
I mean,
with them
72%
percentages.
of Black women is a lot of women. Like
all these
what that looks
percentages
like?
and 85%. Man, I can Google
No.
that. I could have looked that up myself. Like, I just don't
Anyway, that
understand
was
when they
off
be
topic.
talking. Ugh.
That was off topic, Anyhow, so let's go to the chat. So Malevolent, yay, $100, yay! You get the $100.
We don't have the sound effects.
Yes, mistaken. That's it. Thank you. Renee, y'all know I can't read that because my eye. I think you guys are new to me.
Non-biological parents don't have any rights unless they legally adopt the child, regardless of being married.
Read it again.
In some states, non-biological parents don't have any rights unless they legally adopt the child, regardless of being married. Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
I actually have the last name of my father's stepdad because he had to adopt him to bring him into the country. Yeah. Thank you, Shantae. They're not taking the risk men do. I mean,
I'm Shan Monet now. Okay.
Shan Monet. I mean, why do we insist on comparing who's taking more risks?
Right.
Why?
Well, they are. We have to state the fact. If I have a son, he will, and he doesn't have children.
Shantae, how could you say that as a parent? You're risking
because I'm being realistic about the situation. You
so
are
you're telling me that you putting your child's safety into the like into someone else's hands isn't taking a huge risk as a mom.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
But they can both be true at the same time. That doesn't mean he's not. Because let me just tell you this: his risk could be he falls in love with this child. He loves this child like his own child, and you decide you guys part ways, and now the child is gone. That's a bond that he has to let go of. So that's a risk. I'm not saying
hates your child and harms your child because I just saw somebody get married.
Listen, both can be true at this. One does not knock the other out. They both can be true. I'm not saying that she's not taking a risk. We know I'm a mom. I know that. But to say that men aren't taking a risk, that's too different.
I'm not saying that. No, I'm just saying
why
people insist comparing the two. But
no, I wasn't comparing the two. I was just saying that he's only on his side, just talking about him today, right now. And we know she has a lot of risk, but just talking about him, he also has a risk. Is his risk just look different than hers?
Absolutely. Okay, I agree with that.
That's what I was saying.
No, and it wasn't more so. It wasn't even really leaned towards you. I'm just talking about when people in general say, "Oh, he's."
I just hate how men, like real good fathers, have to like fight so hard to get their kids. I just think that is not right.
Yeah,
that's not right.
It sounds good, but grandparents are raising the kids of single moms. Also, back on the stepdaddy market. After Kevin, the market is dry. Time to adapt.
They just whatever they said hit a point about that whole Kevin Samuels is influencing the whole high value men, that thing. That's what I mean when I was saying earlier about like asking guys if what's more accepted in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They are
what they said on my TikTok
narrative, and they are going with that. They are
going with what?
Like that whole. I would rather date a woman who was
a widow or
a widowed, anything under the laws or whatever of marriage versus someone that was even engaged or in a whatever.
It's just a lot of men. They don't want to deal with like mothers not knowing how to. It's a lot of mothers that just don't know how to parent their kids, and the man come in and some of the kids disrespect them. They say that they don't like to deal with things like that. That's what they were saying on the TikTok. But I just feel like I just hate how men say that all the grandparents raising the kids are the single mothers. Not every mother wants to go out to the club. Not every mother wants to do these things. You have mothers that just actually being mothers and sacrificing it all. Like every mother is not a live-in deadbeat mom, because there's a lot of those. We know that. We know a lot of moms is not feeding their kids. They just drop their kids off with anybody. It's a lot of moms like that, but I'm not.
I'm just curious about the whole market is dry comment. Like this, is that insinuating that a woman doesn't have options? Like, because regardless of what somebody's personal feelings are, there's always, and we all know this as women, there is always some man somewhere that is okay with something another man is not, right?
Let me just
If
say
you are
this.
not, like, if you are not somebody who wants to be a stepdad, who wants to take on somebody, which, like, that's great for you. I hope that you get what you're looking for, but it's almost like there's like this shame thing where like men have to be on this code, and if we don't all like the same thing, like, it's okay if you don't want it for yourself, but if another man is okay with that, I don't see what the point of telling women, like, instead of telling women find you a man that's okay with taking on your children, we're saying you don't have options. Like, I think
And
that
that's just not true. Trust
no,
me.
and it's weird.
Honey, we know that's not true. But the thing, it's so crazy to me because I think that people forget that there's a whole market of men who don't even want more children. They know to be with a woman who doesn't have kids means I have to have more kids. And I've already had my kids, just like you have your kids, and we come together and like, look, we have a blended family together. Or I mean, I guess it depends on where you are. I haven't run into that. I see it on the internet a lot, but the reality is I don't see that in real life at all. That's just me, though. I don't know what everybody
I'll
else.
also say it depends on the quality of man that you're looking for.
Oh, I have high quality.
No. I was saying like I forgot her. She's right. Not you, but the other.
Inez.
Yes, what you were saying about the options thing. I think that it depends on like like what you were saying, like you do have options. It's just like, what are you looking for and stuff like that.
I don't think it depends on the quality of men either. Like when we look at these high earner men, like a whole lot of them have been taking on women who already had children. And so like, I don't think your income, your status, or any of that stuff takes any sort of factor. I think it really is. And I know how the internet works. Russell Wilson is not the only example. There are a multitude of them. There are high earning, high quality men that don't have a problem with it. And so saying that a woman doesn't have options because she's gone this route, I think is absurd.
I have to push back on that. Not to say that she doesn't have options, but there is a level in terms of her options are limited. Like when you look at both and you compare a single woman with no kids versus a single woman with kids, and let's say in terms of looks and everything else, they're on the same scale. 9 times out of 10, you are going to have that man that's going to choose the woman that doesn't have kids, because having children comes with an additional set of responsibilities outside of just having a relationship. And so, it's not to say that you won't ever be able to find a mate. Like my uncle, like all of his marriages, he's been married 3 times. And in every single one of those marriages, the woman had children. So that wasn't an issue for him. But for some other men, that is an issue. So does it mean that you're not ever going to find anybody? No, but may it take a little longer than somebody else without kids? It's possible. But I understand what you're saying in terms of the narrative of trying to make women think that you just need to go ahead and take whatever you want because you have children, when that's not necessarily the case. But your options are going to be somewhat limited when compared to those who don't have any children at all.
And I want to say too, I think the emphasis is whether you are in your life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for me, I'm 44. It's not hard to find men who've been there and done that, you know, because I'm not dating the 35-year-old handsome, the guy who has no kids and he's got, you know, I'm dating the 50-year-old guy who has kids, maybe even a grandkid. You know?
Damn good, by the way.
Thank you. And he has a great profession. And he is a high value man, you know, and so we have things in common. We are looking for more of a companionship. We're not looking to start a legacy over again. Maybe he's a widow or maybe he's divorced, you know. So those are people are forgetting there are men who are in different times in their life. They're different paths and they've already experienced certain things and they're just not looking for that. And to the person who was saying, you're looking for somebody to date and not to marry. No, sir. I don't deal with those type of people. I think that you know, that's a type of man. And I think that I'm trying. I don't want to say things, but I don't want to be rude or to be, you know, I gotta watch my mouth. Okay, let me just shut up. Okay. It's a certain type of man. There are men who will do you that way, and then there are men who are respectable men, and they want to honestly date you with intention. There are men who do that. Believe it or not, I know we have tons of men who are like, oh, they're all dogs. That's not true at all.
So I just think it's really funny that like sometimes like a lot of men will see a single mother and feel like the single mom is looking for a daddy for her kid. No, baby. Sometimes we need a zaddy for mama. Okay. So I'm gonna need them to stop jumping to conclusions with that. I just had to throw that little humor in there because, you know, that's why a lot of guys run away from the whole idea. Think that, you know, single mom is looking for a dad or a person to take on her responsibilities and this, that, and the next. No, that's not always the case. Like, you know, it's not. So just had to poke fun at that really quickly.
You know, I'm gonna get to the cream, but since we're talking about this, I'm gonna do 5 minutes. Why do you think? It's because the question always comes up. You know, I look through the chat for inspiration because they come up with some great stuff. You know, they're like and they're like, you know, that's a good question. So my question is, because you know, it's always saying, oh, you dealt with the bad guy, and that's why you got in a situation. And in actuality, I feel like I dealt with a great man. And it just did not work. You know, it's not, I think they have this narrative that we all mess with that bad guy who was something, you know, wasn't a good guy and we ended up pregnant when some of us were really good catches, you know, really good.
I think that all of them are Pookie and Ray Ray.
Ray Ray.
That your baby daddy was a Pookie or Ray Ray.
Yes, yeah. And it's quite the opposite for some people, you know?
We actually planned our daughter. Like we planned, like I detoxed for 30 days. Like he wanted his daughter. We had our wedding date set. We were engaged. So we just went ahead and did it. It was that, you know, he was a cool guy. He just wasn't a cool guy for me, I guess, you know, so it didn't work out, but that's how it goes sometimes, you know?
Right. Anybody else wanted to know? Yeah, we're not all, you know, I don't think my child's father is a Pookie at all, you know. So that's not true.
Some of these people probably look up to this man, but hey.
Okay.
I wonder, it's more of a question, right? Because like, I wonder if that rhetoric just comes from women who demonize a partner that it hasn't worked out with, or is it men who want to look at themselves as better than, who kind of spin that. I'm curious where this rhetoric comes from. Like I'm not a mom myself, so like I can't speak from my own experience, but I'd love to hear, because you ladies are saying your experience is totally different. So where does this narrative come from?
I feel like it does come from that initial.
Narrative. I'm
Like,
sorry.
sorry.
What's the narrative? I just want to follow along.
Yeah, I'm confused too.
The narrative of, you know, a woman becomes a single mom because she's dealing with a bad guy that, like, you know, it's either a Pookie or Ray Ray or somebody who's abusive or, you know, was a narcissist, because that's the popular thing to talk about. Like, there's always this narrative of the other partner being bad, right? So where does that come from if that's not a common experience?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it is a common experience. And before I healed from what was taking place between my daughter's father and I, when we had our communication breakdown, I could say that I was in a space where I was playing victim. Not to say there weren't things that didn't call for that, but I think that does happen a lot when we as women choose wrong and then feel bamboozled and then act as though we didn't choose that person for ourselves. And so we then turn around and be like, oh, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. No, he just was a bad guy for you. Like, you guys brought that out of each other. So now that he was a bad guy for you, you want to make it seem like he's a bad guy in general when y'all just weren't meant for each other, or we just weren't meant for each other. And because we were out of order in how we were dealing with each other, things unfolded the way they did. But he's the same guy that he was when you met him. Maybe, you know, give or take a few things that he may have learned from the experience with you, but he's the same person. So I think it does happen. I mean, it does happen, like, you know, where I feel like even when guys introduce us to their representatives, like, that's on us. We're supposed to discern. We're supposed to vet properly. We're supposed to figure certain things out. So if we don't, it's just on us. So I do feel like that happens when we, like, kind of put ourselves in a place of, like, victim and don't really call it for what it is, which is just the fact that, you know, the person that we selected just wasn't the person we were supposed to have selected for ourselves in that way.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I love, like, I think you kind of like, you said it perfectly, like, in those words. Because as I stated, like, the person, the father of my child, he was my high school sweetheart, and we went separate ways. And as I said, I doubled back to something that I thought I wanted, you know, trying to make him into the person, because we were still friends and we were really great friends, because he was a great person, or what I thought. He just wasn't the person, you know, meant for me, you know, or, you know, right, how we kind of use the term or the phrase right person, wrong timing. So it's like he was still the same person that he was. And it's just like, I expected it to be something different, and he wasn't showing up, you know, to be that person that I had kind of made him out to be in my own head. But
for me, I think that the knowledge I have today, it would have been a little different than in the past, because I'm not an adventurous. Well, back in the day, I'm a little bit more adventurous now, but in the past, I was not. So when it was time to move for career change, because my child's father is that career guy. He is the epitome of that go getter. He is going to get it. That has always been him, but I didn't see it. I'm more of a country girl, you know. I like my space. I like the South. I know it's so old school, but that's just how I am. And he was a northern guy, like, look, we got to move to so and so and so and so. And I'm like, no, we don't. We can stay right here. But that's where opportunity was. And so that distance kind of, you know, so it had nothing to do with our our personality, so to speak. It was really just distance. He had a bigger dream, a bigger goal, and it worked out great for him, you know, but I'm just a Southern girl who just did not want to leave my territory. It's horrible. But that's really what it was back in the day. Anybody else want to share their story? We can move on.
Move on.
But great guy, great guy. So did we do all these super chats? Oh, here's the one.
If you're Mr. Rideau, 199, if your child makes a claim, he's going to jail. That's what he's referring to about men taking risks when they are in a relationship with a woman with a child. Yeah, that is a risk. I'm gonna be honest. I've seen that happen because the child did not like the boyfriend, the girlfriend, or what have you. So that has happened. And as a man, to be honest, like I have a friend who is in a relationship. She has 2 children. The boyfriend, well, fiance now, interacts with the son very different than he does with the daughter. And that is his reason. So I can understand that. Not that the child would do that, but for him, it's like, I don't even want to put myself in a situation where anything could ever be said. So in that regard, men do have to protect themselves in that manner. So I get that. That is a risk.
Okay, sorry, I had to get off another screen. And then the last one.
Rebellious videos, $2. That's like a woman taking a man who makes 40 or 50K.
I'm not talking about that. Y'all ain't about to get me on that no more. I'm gonna hush my mouth to
That's
that.
how women dating men for potential.
That was a setup. That was a setup. Let me get off the screen. That's like, thank you guys so much for the super chat. But now let's get to the meat, what we all came here for.
How many married women are single mothers?
I don't. But whoa.
Get into it. Get into it. Get into
Married
it.
women are single? How does that?
I'll give you this explanation. Okay. I'm not, because me and my husband actually work together on raising our kids. Mm-hmm. But there is plenty of households where a woman is solely responsible for raising kids. And a man don't give a fuck.
And you define those women as single mothers?
A married woman that's a single mom, yeah.
I
mean, it's legally, legally, no. Yeah. But in reality, if you're a man, and I mean, your household run how your household run. But if you can't help your wife or your girl out with the kids, and you know she need a break, or I saw a video of a girl breastfeeding, and she was dozing off breastfeeding. The boyfriend was recording her. Oh, look at you being reckless. Da, 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 da. Why wouldn't you just grab your baby? Yep. Baby, go lay down for a second. You tired?
Yeah, I get you.
Because she's a single mom.
But you know what? Personally,
next caller.
I potty train
No, ma'am. She's still a married woman that chose the wrong husband. You're not a single mom. You're a primary
husband.
Yes, you're a primary caregiver to your children. You're a mom. You're a mother. You're a sole, probably primary caregiver, but you're a married woman, so you're not a single mom. We gotta stop this foolishness. No,
I agree. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think feeling like a single mother and being a single mother are 2 distinctively different things, right? Because whether your partner is doing enough is different than them being in the household. Like, it's a different conversation. I understand the sentiment of feeling like that, feeling like I'm not getting the support I need, this person's not showing up. And to what Lady T said, like, you chose wrong and there needs to be some accountability there. But at the same time, like, you're not actually, right? You're feeling it, but you're not actually.
Well, I can actually speak to that firsthand. I happen to, I married my son's, dad. So we married, but, I got pregnant and had my son before we actually got married. And, we were pretty young, and I kind of felt like, now, was I single? Well, at that point, yes, I was single because technically I was not married at that point in time. But I understood where she was coming from in terms of feeling like you're single. In my case, technically, by definition, I was single because I was not married, although we were living with each other. And the experience for me that I had initially was the fact that I was doing it all. And that was a very difficult situation. I felt single, and part of it was the fact that his experience growing up was his mother. He grew up in a single household, and his mother was the one that took care of everything. Of course, she had to, right? And so his experience of what motherhood looks like was that, like, the mom takes care of everything. So in his mindset, it was, well, this is your responsibility. Until we had a conversation and I had to explain what this is going to need to look like for us, because I should not be living as if I'm a single parent like your mom did when I have a whole person up in the house with me. So, there are going to have to be adjustments that are going to be made. I understand she did what she did because she had to. I'm not in a situation that I have to, because you are a present person that is here with your child. So I should not be feeling like I'm doing it on my own. And so I understand where some women can be in a situation where they feel like they're a single mom, even though the dad is physically present. It doesn't mean that he's physically doing what he's supposed to do as a father. So I understood that.
But we can all agree that ain't a single mom.
Well, technically at that point in time I was, because we weren't married. So okay. I was single, yeah. But when we got married, I mean, it trickled over into that when we got married, and that was where the conversation had to take place on what things are going to need to change, because both of us are working parents, and we're splitting that responsibility. We also have to split the responsibility of parenting. And when we had that conversation and he understood where I was coming from, that adjustment was made. Now, did he take care of the kids at the same level that I did? Of course not. You know what I'm saying? That was my job, in terms of that role of being the, I would say, primary caretaker of the children, definitely. But he did have to step it up.
So I'm gonna kind of like I guess get a little deep right now. The first time I got married, I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I was married legally. He was in the military. He's just got back from Afghanistan. His mom had just died. The military does not recognize boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yep.
And I grew up where I didn't believe in shacking. So I'm like, I'm not living with a man. I don't care how young I am. I'm not living with a man until I'm married. And so there was reasons on both ends for us to get married. So we got married. And then I became pregnant with my oldest child. There were conversations that needed to be had that 18 and 19-year-olds don't have. Logistical conversations like, hey, how many kids do you want? Because at that point in time, we were just in the building phase. We hadn't even talked about any kind of children. And I ended up becoming pregnant. I was married. Mind you, this is my husband. I had a baby with my husband. And when I got pregnant, he looked at me and he said, if you keep this baby, if you keep him, you are a single mother. Yes. And from that point in time, I picked up the phone. I went to the abortion clinic, right? Because that's what he was pushing. I was not getting an abortion. So I knew at 18 or at 19, I had to make a heavy choice. Like, this is my baby. I'm going to be a single mom if I choose this route. I'm choosing to be a single mother over being married, essentially. And I called my mom, picked up the phone. I called my mom. My mom's like, you have a village. You have a village behind you. You will be a single mom, but you will not be a single mom. Right. Mm-hmm. And I had my son and I was still legally married. I was still legally married. This was our baby. My son has his last name, everything like that. But I was a single mother and I was married by definition of state law, all of that stuff. Had his last name. My son had his last name, everything. But I was a single mother. Like, he did not, hands off, and he was like done. And when we dissolved and got a divorce and I went into the military myself to provide better for my child, he was like, I'm not paying child support. I'm not paying child support. I'm not doing this. I'm not a part of this. I was a single mom. So you can be married and be a single mom. It's a one-off.
Yeah, that's a little rare, but Jesus,
weird situation.
that happened to you.
But you can literally be in that situation because there are things like the military, and there are things like, and even, you know, when I was in the military, my story wasn't really that uncommon where, like, you know, the man had married somebody for monetary gain from the military because that military is going to cut the check, you know? So they're like, I need a dependent on my papers, but kids, no. Like, we had a guy when I was in the military and he had 4 kids with his wife. They're from Alabama. And we ended up having to get her emergency services and get her flown back to Alabama because she had no money, no way to take care of these kids. House was dirty. She ended up getting postpartum depression. House was just full of dirty diapers, all kinds of stuff. So she was married, but she was a single mother. And he was over in Afghanistan collecting a check. Didn't care.
I mean, like, I wanna call your ex-husband not nice things, but I'm not gonna do that, right? Because I hate that for you. But I still stand on what I said. I think you're a primary caregiver. Like you can, so you still could kind of get the benefits of being married. Like, if you were to have wanted to go after certain benefits because that's his
not in states where no contest, like not in states where there is no, how do I explain it? You would think that it's not that way.
In the military, though, because I'm a military brat too. And
yeah, I was but I was like I'm a veteran.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
It's not that way. Yeah, like it's not that way.
But there are, so then you're in the military, so you know that there's like, you can be discharged in dishonorary ways based on how you manage your family unit.
No, they can make suggestions and they can put you on extra duty and punishment and stuff like that, but they cannot push you out of the military because you don't want to be.
No, of course not. But they can hold you accountable in other ways.
They don't garnish his wages for child support, because I thought that.
Yeah. Like they do that, but they
that's her husband.
But that's
not something that a single mom
they can't get involved unless they are not allowed to get involved in your marriage, like your family stuff, unless like there has to be a situation like exactly what I said where they're malnourished children. Household is not okay.
But so you're saying you couldn't benefit from that because you were married, but once y'all got divorced, then you were able to get the
right. Like when you're divorced, of course you can do that. But when you guys are married and stuff like that, you can't just walk in there and like their chain of command is going to laugh at you because their first duty is to protect their soldier.
Right.
It's to take care of their soldiers. So they need their soldier. So they're going to tell them, hey, here's a number to a counselor. We're going to send a counselor to your house. Here you go. Here's some counseling services. Here's this and that. They can make suggestions, but they cannot force someone to take. They should. It's shitty that they don't, but they don't have to. They don't, like, they can't kick you out for that either.
But my point is, like, you still would be privy to certain benefits as a woman that's married to a deadbeat that single moms wouldn't have access to as far as those resources go.
So do you think so you would be more like a divorced mom? Is that a whole nother term? Just like she's a divorced mom. Because some people still will look at her as if she's not married
She's
anymore.
married to a deadbeat.
Well, she's divorced now.
I mean,
So-
I meant, yeah. I mean, she was. That's what I said. She was married to a deadbeat. Like he was a deadbeat. He ended up being a deadbeat. Like that's like, you know what I mean? Like I could see how it would feel like you're a single mom because he neglected his responsibilities as a husband, as a father, as a man in that situation.
That's kind of an odd thing, though. I see that's not a normal situation. Maybe in the military, you're saying it, but
Well,
that's
it's extreme. Yeah.
That's extreme.
That's
So
an
I
extreme.
get what she's I can see why she was like, okay, I was just out in the dry. It just so happened I was married to this guy, but he did the exact same thing. Then people, I get it.
Again, like as single moms, we can't say, like single moms get the baby mama title because we chose the wrong father for our child. We chose the wrong person to lay with and bring forth life with. We don't get to say, I'm not a baby mom. Like I can't even come up with like the best analogy for it right now. But it's like a thing where it's like, there's certain benefits that you, like I said, that's the best way to put it.
But like, what are the benefits that you're saying? Because like a husband has to want to choose to share those benefits with you. Like you can't. A man is not just because he marries you. Like that's what I was saying. Like it's fucked up. They shouldn't do that. But what are the benefits? Like, what are you speaking on? Like what are the benefits?
So, I mean, what you mentioned earlier, like if you were to have said, we're married, my child needs this and that, we can't afford to live a life, we can't afford to make ends meet. And you were to report that and say that you needed services based on the fact that your husband was in the military.
You know what they'll do? They'll give you the number to the WIC office and they'll tell you to go to the WIC office.
Okay, so we can't. Okay, if she's saying this is her experience, we can't.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to argue.
No, like I'm so serious. There's women. Go look it up. Like there's people, or you could call a base right now and ask them if they have WIC services. If your husband, it depends on your husband's rank as well too. If you go to your chain of command and say, well, he's not buying X, Y, and Z. The baby needs formula. The baby needs diapers. That's why I said, like, they'll be like, here's a number to like a counseling. Here's a number to.
What? That's so trash for them to
The
not.
military is really like that, though. That's what I'm saying.
No. I know. I'm not doubting that. But what I'm saying, you know why that's so trash? Because you know how you said they don't recognize girlfriend, boyfriend. So they don't.
I mean, from a life insurance policy standpoint, like you go on that person's life insurance and stuff like that when they're like
you receive his benefits if something were to happen to him.
Yeah, like exactly. Like if they go overseas and stuff like that, they die. You get a $500,000 life insurance policy check. Like, but their benefits, like even like health insurance stuff, you have to know your sponsor's social. So your husband has to like love you. Like, you think somebody's just gonna give you their social? No.
I mean, I get that.
Like,
but you know what? But to go to her case, even though it sounds so far-fetched, I know people like a long time ago though, it's some years ago, that used to like their husband. Like I've heard stories from older generation how they had a husband who disappeared on them and they had to get a divorce to the newspaper. Like they couldn't find him, so they literally had to go through the newspaper to divorce. Y'all never heard that before?
Yes, like they got married a long time ago. In order for them to marry somebody new,
they had to divorce because he just left.
Yes, I thought Sweet Home Alabama was like that.
Some people be disappearing, y'all.
In that movie, Sweet Home Alabama, with Reese Witherspoon, where the girl wants to get married to the new guy, and then she has to go and force her ex to sign the papers, and they end up refalling in love.
Okay, so I was directed to read this. Okay. Somebody says facts. Thank you. You know, y'all, my eyes. So you guys don't know me, but I can't read these because my sight sucks and I refuse to wear glasses. Sorry. So somebody has to read them for me.
So Sir Shy 87 $2 says, I can say Shantae is a single mom men will marry.
Oh, thank you, Chamonix. Thank you so much.
All right, same gentleman, $5 says, I don't know, Indy, thinking emoji. I'm hiring Scooby Doo to solve this mystery because I definitely would ask this brother what really happened. Shantae for president.
That's I love him. I love him. We have a like an online relationship. We've got a little flirtatious thing going on this song. Sorry. But anybody else wanted to add to that? For me, it's I get where you're coming from, Indy, and I apologize that happened to you. That really sucks for your husband. Like that, that's crazy. But that is like
I mean, when you get married at 18 years, like that's what I'm saying. Like I own my shit. Like I have no problem. Like I'm 27 years old. I was 18 when that happened. Like I've sat in my shit and owned it. Like you can't make me feel some type of way. It sounds far-fetched. It sounds crazy. But I was 18 years old when I was getting married to somebody.
Yeah. Like, and he's young too, right? Because he was 18 as well. So
we
you
were
guys
18 years old and got married. He went in the military when he's 17 years old. Like a 17, 18-year-old who's in the military probably doesn't even know how to navigate their own benefits fully.
Yeah. Yeah. He just wanted a living wife and
he didn't want kids. Like not even just that, but like he didn't want kids. Like he straight up said, like straight up, like I said, I knew when I was keeping my baby at 19, I'm going to be a single mom. Like, that's fine.
Yeah. So the baby ended the relationship essentially?
Yeah. And like now he's hit an epiphany. He came back around. My son doesn't call him like dad. He calls him Cody because he calls my ex-husband that I was married to from 21 to 25. And that was like a real deal, full-fledged like marriage. I got benefit, like I know what it looks like to actually like, you know what I mean? Like those benefits that you're talking about when like I had.
He considers him his dad.
Yeah, like he calls him daddy. Like he doesn't call his dad daddy. Like he's just started to reemerge in the last couple of years, and even then it's spotty. So like it's not a tradition, but we were married. Like we were legally. Like on paper, I had to go through a whole hell of a lot in the state of Hawaii to get a divorce and everything like that. And like, he just now started paying child support 7 years later. Like,
yeah, I mean, I get that. And again, I hate that. Like for you, I hate that for like women. Like I don't like it. And I feel like that's even more of a reason why we need to be more responsible with who we decide to carry for. Because like it's always mommy's baby, daddy's maybe. Like at the end of the day, literally a man could pick up and dip when he doesn't feel the need to be bothered. Like, you know, and it sucks, but that's the reality of it, you know? So that's just trash. Like, that's trash. But yeah.
So we're gonna do, it's 11:04. We're quick on the weekdays. We all have JOBs. So any last minute final thoughts? Anybody have any last minute final thoughts?
No. I mean, this has been a dope conversation. Definitely gave me a new perspective, Indy, actually. I mean, I'm still up in the air because I'm like, damn, like you were married, but you really did have to raise your baby by yourself. So shout out to you for that. And you had to make a way by yourself. So shout out to you for that.
I joined the Army because of it. That's why I was like, I knew the benefits if I had them myself, like if I was in the Army myself. So I joined the Army.
Right.
And stayed married on paper. and then hit him with divorce papers as soon as I graduated from boot camp. And then from there on, I was like, let me level up on him. Let me boss up. I don't need you. Like, not trying to say like, a kid doesn't need a dad, but I took a negative and I flipped it.
Right.
That's what's up.
Right. So yeah, so shout out to you for that. I mean, definitely gave me another perspective to consider. Because I don't know, I'm still torn, but now a bit more understanding of that. That is like probably the anomaly. So but yeah.
And thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Does anybody else want to Mr. Logic, can you please stop trying to toxify our chat? We're bougie over here. Everybody here knows how to act. So get out of here with all of your toxicity. I'm just playing with him.
What is Logic doing? Logic
being illogical in the chat. But go ahead.
The chat is cracking me up right now. That's why I'm like,
I haven't looked at it. I cannot. But anyway.
Sean, don't nobody want to compete with no man. Child, a man is not my competition.
That's why I'm just like, it wasn't a competition thing, but when you have to make a way for a child, and if you're a single mother, you will do what you need to do.
It's always me against me, though. So I'm going to compete with myself. I'm going to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And if yesterday I was hoping that you would come around and do what you're supposed to do for your child, and I realized today that that's not going to happen, I'm going to make sure that my best revenge is you seeing me be successful without you, and your child's becoming something that you want to be a part of. And they're going to look at you, because kids always figure it out.
They do.
They always do. So
somebody in here said, I'm in the Air Force right now, and the chain of command will definitely make sure the child is the Air Force is completely different from the Army.
I heard that Air Force is bougie too.
It is.
Bougie. My little sister's about
to the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, my mom is still in the Army.
They're not sleeping on the ground doing 12-mile ruck marches like
Army.
They're not getting them hands there. They like, we're gonna fly this plane and call it a day. I'm joking. I don't know.
They be saying like in the Army while they running, the Air Force people all riding.
Looking at them like with their sunglasses on. What is that? Going like some labor over there.
Yeah.
I'm done. He said we are bougie. Yep. That's what I heard. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining the panel today. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for showing up with us today. I hope to see everybody again Monday. Hopefully we can get B. Taylor back. Woo woo, because Shantae likes to be on the sideline. Anyhow, well, my name is Shan Monet. Sorry, not Shantae. Again, thanks you guys. Everybody have a great night. Have a great week. We love you. See you later.